Steve Hornstein for the record, 500 Broadway, Suite 120 in Vancouver. Here on behalf of the Carlson family tonight and their various business entities. I was talking to Eric on the break. This is obviously a very complex and wonderful effort to put the city in position to capitalize on its annexation all the way to the freeway, the existence of Alani and the economy generally. I think it's time for it's the city's time, I think, to grow, and I think the casino will facilitate that. I'm concerned about the two things. One, the length of the moratorium, and as to the Carlson industrial property, the need for it. The Carlson property was annexed pursuant to a pre-annexation development agreement that was very carefully negotiated and documented uses for both the commercial and the industrial property that they own. All of the industrial property I think the city has at the Junction is the Carlson property. You heard briefly that the Columbia River Economic Development Council has done a major study on that site. I was heavily involved in that process, and it's an opportunity site on the short list of the entire planning process that the CREDC went through to identify available land for jobs, primarily industrial and in some cases commercial, not retail commercial, but other kinds of commercial uses. And after the list was made, the committee there picked 5 sites to study in great depth, and the Carlson property was one of those sites. And I don't see anything about further work on that site by the city will contribute that much more than we already have on that site. That work was done also by McKinsey, great work. I estimated that if a developer came along to do that work as due diligence for developing that site, they'd probably spend about $30,000 on the work that the CREDC had done as part of the overall project. Didn't cost them that much, but if you just came in to do it, I think it would be very expensive. I can see that the commercial portion of the Carlson property is pretty well wrapped up in your process now and probably needs to abide the completion of that process. I don't agree with that on the industrial. Let me tell you that we've had some interest in the commercial, the property that Carlson's owns there. I've spent a fair amount of time with an out-of-town broker who has a client that's looked at it. I can't say that it's resulted in an offer yet, but there is, people are looking at the center now, and that's the good news. As to the commercial property generally, both Carlson and generally, I would hope that you would shorten the amount of time. I keep hearing, well, we probably don't need 6 months. Well, then why do 6 months? The word moratorium in the development world and in the world of people that build buildings for use, like commercial buildings and hotels and that sort of thing, it's a very evil word. It isn't your intention here, but as Dan alluded to, it's often a political reason. And people run, developers and folks that might otherwise develop run from communities that use that word. They just look elsewhere. That's my day job experience.
Observations about some of the things that Mr. Hornstein said. I understand how things, oftentimes, government process expands to fill the time available. And so I would, and he has urged the city, suggested that the city go faster, and I would do that too. And you can go faster, the Planning Commission can go faster, and that's why when it does complete its job, it can extinguish the moratorium at that time. The risk you run, and you kind of have to evaluate this, is that Washington has a very pro-developer vesting law. And that means when an application, a development application is submitted and is deemed technically complete, it fixes in place the development regulations that are on the books at that time. And so and Eric can speak more to the substantive difference between the current zoning and the zoning that's in the works coming through the Planning Commission right now. But the risk you run is that someone submits a development application right after the moratorium expires, but before the new regulations are adopted, and they are set with those regulations. And it's important to know what the difference is, because it's my sense that a developer that comes into the Junction is going to want to take advantage of the new regulations that are on their way. And so it's hard for me to evaluate exactly what the differences are and whether a developer would be tempted to try and, as we say, scoop the new regulations or not. It's my sense that they would want the new regulations to allow the full panoply of development options that are available.
The comment about doing it for 3 months rather than 6 months, from my uneducated mind, doesn't seem like that would be something that would be unreasonable. Is there a cost or a problem with doing 3 months and then we get 3 weeks before the end of the 3 months or 6 weeks before the end of the 3 months and decide we need more and do it then?
Or 2 days.
Well,
yes, that's possible. Yeah.
so that is something that would be viable.
Light at the end of the day, at the end of 3 months. During the work session, I did mention that the McKinsey schedule and the contract that we have does not have them completing the phase 2 analysis, which includes the site planning that they're going to do for the commercial zone as well, but they won't finish their work for 10 to 12 weeks. And so that puts us out almost 3 months already. So with the work that they complete with their site analysis, as well as the cost on return of your investment, we still have to take that work to the Planning Commission. And they won't be working with return on investment, but they will be looking at the differences between what the Charette team put together for design ideas and what McKinsey's ideas are. And they're going to need to synthesize that into development regulations. And so that's not going to be finalized for 10 to 12 weeks, in my opinion. Can the Planning Commission work faster? They've done a fabulous job already, and I'm totally impressed by how hard they worked. And I know that they will continue to do that, but I think I would be selling you a false bill of goods if I tell you I think they'll get done. And you will be done in 3 weeks or 3 months' time. Because after it comes to the Planning Commission, it's got to come back to you for final action. So that's my